Hello, hello, hello everybody, and welcome to the first round of the SkyVision Arab Tournament here under the lights in Bahrain. My name is Coolest, and I am happy to be walking you through all of the action today, and I will unfortunately be your sole commentator, but that is, that's something that we'll have to roll with here, and we're going to be pressing on straight away with qualifying for this first of a 3-race tournament season. And yeah, we're in Bahrain. We've got 13 drivers here today, and we're going to be waiting to see who is going to be leaving the pits first for this qualifying session. Seems like everybody's taking their sweet time at the moment, so we'll just wait here for a second and walk you through what this event is going to be about. Well, it's presented by SkyVision Events, and we are going to be doing a 3-race season, like I say. I believe this race was actually delayed a couple days. Could be wrong on that, but yeah, so the races will normally be on Fridays, which means we'll have the second round on this Friday, and then the final round at Jeddah will be on the Friday after this one. So yeah, it's going to be all action, just a short dash, but with a big prize, because there is plenty of money on the line here for whoever the winning driver might be. So there's certainly plenty of reason to fight, and we do finally have our first cars making their way out onto the track. So yeah, hopefully the stream is going to be up and running okay. I will do my best to keep on top of things, and do my best to keep on top of the chat as well, but obviously the on-track action is going to be taking top priority. So if there's any issues, do let me know. I will see them there. But otherwise, we're going to be all focused on the action here, and starting off with plenty of drivers now onto the track. Seems like everybody's come out at once, and the furthest driver around is Nawaf here in the Mercedes, making his way through turn 8. So yeah, a bit about the track, Bahrain. Obviously, we just saw the season opener in real-life F1 not too long ago here, and it was, well, not the most entertaining race. I'm sure we'll be able to do a little bit better than that here today. But yeah, should be a fun one here. I've literally never seen a disappointing league race around Bahrain, although I have seen some chaotic ones, so we'll see how today's action pans out, but hopefully it should be a nice fight between all of the 13 drivers here. And yeah, can take a look down the order at the other cars competing. We have one of the 2 other drivers who I have commentated on before, which is Elias, or Lamau here in the Ferrari. And he's going to be the second car to start his lap. Then I believe we have Tamer, who is the other of the 2 drivers. Convenient that they've gone up together. And then behind them, I believe it's the Aston Martin of Hussein, and then the Mercedes. And speaking of Mercedes, let's switch back to Nawaf and see the first lap of qualifying. So here we go. Full power down the start-finish straight. Battery fully charged up. The McLaren on the inside is going to get out of the way. Spot your braking point and try and get it tight into the apex. Don't hit the curb, and Nawaf takes that very nicely there. Just a little bit of curb on the second apex, then plenty on the third. Easy on the power as to not spin up the rear tyres, and then on the way up to turn 4 we go. Can take a lot of curb on the outside as you swing the car in. It's a beautiful corner to go through that one, but can be tricky on track limits. Nawaf negotiates it beautifully though. Heading now through turns 6 and 7. Can, well, he lost at the back end a little bit there, but he's seems to have recovered it okay. It's a very clean lap so far for the most part. Gets a good rotation around turn 8. Now here we go, trickiest corner on the track, breaking through turn 9 and into 10, and yeah, Nawaf negotiates this beautifully once again. So it seems like a solid lap by the Mercedes driver here. He makes his way down this short little DRS straight, heading into turn 11. Again, plenty of curb on the outside, don't want to take too much on the inside, and careful on the back end. It's very easy to lose it there, but again, Nawaf showing us all how it's done. Can take quite a lot of curb, a lot more than he used to be able to on the inside there. He's obviously purple in the second sector, being the first driver around, and puts the power down on the exit of turn 13. Again, seems like the setup for the Mercedes driver is very solid, unlike in real life, so yeah, perhaps teaching the real strategist how it's done. But out of turn 14 and 15, 2 corners, well, it's technically 2 corners, but it really drives like one, and then it's flat to the line, and that is going to be a banker time of a 128.9. So see what everybody else can do behind, and the next driver along is going to be Elias, who is car 7, currently in P number 7, but what is he going to do here? He's a very quick driver, so across the line he will go. What is he able to do? It is a 128 flat, so there you go. There's a sign of the true pace of some of the drivers here today, and that is an almighty lap from Elias. And let's see who's going to be next. I've switched the wrong Aston Martin. It was Hussein, and he goes 3rd quickest, so we're at 1 minute 30 there. I think he might be able to improve on that one. And the next Mercedes is going to be down, well, he was down in 12th, now he jumps up to 4th, it's Hamad. And yeah, some of the drivers just a little bit off the pace. We do have a bit of a discrepancy in pace between some of the drivers, as we've seen in the pre-season races, but that's alright. Everybody's just here to, well, have a good time, but also to have a good fight as well, and try and secure the top prize, as we've said. Draco now goes 4th quickest, who's just behind the Aston Martin of Hussein. And who is going to be next around? It's going to be the 7th place currently driver of Awad Harbi. And he has invalidated his lap, actually, so there you go. First driver to do so, and I would have to expect potentially first of many. The track limits can be tricky in some places here. What about Imamina? He goes 5th quickest with a 131.3, and there is a Red Bull behind him. That was not Tamer, that must have been Talal, was it? Hang on, can I switch to the right car? There we go, yes it was Talal. And I believe he's just starting a lap, because the first lap, well, it said 2 minutes and 1, so I'm going to assume that must have been an invalid, might have gone for a second cool lap, but either way, it should be on a push now, so we'll ride on board into turn 4. Bit conservative on the curb there, and still not entirely perfect on the traction, now going through 5 and 6. The game tells us he's the fastest driver through the first sector though, so perhaps I don't know what I'm talking about, although we do know. Anyone who's seen this game enough will know that the game does like to lie about who is setting purple sectors and who isn't. But either way, a Red Bull driver is going to make his way through 9 and 10 now, and seems fairly tidy, a bit more curb than you'd like though on both entry and exit, so it's not a perfect lap here. I would not expect this to be contended for first place, but we'll see what he can do. So he heads now, dive the car into turn 11, try not to lose the back end. It's, like I say, very easy to do there, but he just about keeps control of the car, heading through the flat-out right-hander of turn 13. Again, the game is adamant that he's on a very quick lap here, says he's purple through Sector 2, so we'll just have to wait and see if that's the case, though I would have to throw a little bit of skepticism in there, but we'll see. Now, on the straight, down towards turn 14, heavy braking zone, you don't want to take too much curb on the inside, and that seemed to be around about the limit there. Flat out through turn 15, careful not to lose the back end, and across the line, it is going to be P3 for Talal. So, like I was sort of expecting, a solid lap, but not quite quick enough for first place as things stand. So, yeah. It's going to be a very interesting session here today. Still got 11 minutes left to go. And yeah, we're going to see how it goes for the rest of the drivers. And one thing you will have to get used to is occasionally, being the only commentator here, I will have to take a little break to get a breather and a drink in, so apologies for that. I will be doing that right now, but yeah, just before I do, Wedgman Ali does improve his time and just about goes 8th quickest, which is now 9th quickest, because Tamer has set his first time of the session, and he goes 2nd quickest, a 10th behind Elias. So those are the drivers we're expecting to be at the top today. We're expecting a fight to be between those two guys for the win here. And yeah, that is, well, it's exactly what we're expecting. Tamer just behind Elias as things stand. But we will press on with the session, and Tamer, I would assume, has backed off. Yeah, I mean, you can tell by the battery, he's not going to be going for another lap, so we will switch around the field, see if anybody else is currently on another lap. Seems to have been perhaps a little bit of an altercation there between the Mercedes of Hamad and the Alpha Tauri, I think that was of Awad Harbi. Indeed it was. And yeah, those guys both on cool-down laps though, or warm-up laps, whichever it is. I mean, they're obviously warming up the tyres, so yeah, definitely warm-up laps. I apologise, I clearly don't know what I'm talking about, but yeah. We'll see how they go once they get round to the final corner to start their 14 laps, and somebody's just set a time. That was Achi in the Haas, who's just come across the line to go 3rd quickest now, so another driver potentially in the contention here, as we have one of the Alfa Romeos, I think, just about to start a lap. Indeed, that is Omar El Muta, heading down towards the first corner, and we will ride on board again for another lap here. I think both of the Red Bulls are about to peel into the pits, indeed they have, so nobody's going to be setting any times anytime soon, so the next one up might just be Omar here, so let's ride on board with the Alfa Romeo driver, this time taking much more curb on the run into turn 4, but don't take too much on the exit. That's where track limits can be very tricky, but yeah, keeping it nice and clean within the track limits, and this time I would potentially be inclined to believe that purple first sector has been pretty clean so far. Going into turn 8 though, doesn't take the widest of lines there, pinches off the corner just a little bit, so perhaps a little bit of room to improve on that one, or perhaps it's just a quirk of the driving style, but that is not a quirk. That's definitely going in a bit too deep there at turn 10. That's not the ideal line, but still managed to carry some decent speed through the corner, so it's far from over just yet for Omar. We'll now check the car into turn 11. Again, what's the traction like? This time it's a lot cleaner, so it's definitely a solid lap here from the Alfa Romeo driver. hook it onto the curb, but not too literally. Going through Sector 2 now, or crossing the timing beam for Sector 2 now. Again, game tells us for a split second that he's purple. We'll have to wait and see how true that is as he gets to the line, but it definitely seems like a solid lap here, and potentially one that could challenge the top 2 rows of the grid if we can keep it clean through the final couple of corners, which we can. And so up to the line we'll go now. Open the DRS, there we go, and over the line it is. There we go, I was right on cue. P4, second row of the grid for Omar on his first lap of qualifying, so solid stuff by him with 8 minutes left to go in the session. And yeah, I think we also have now Awad and Nawaf, who is going to be, well, one of 2 Nawafs. It's something that you might get a little bit confused by, but there is a Mercedes Nawaf and a McLaren Nawaf, so those are definitely 2 different drivers, and the first one who's going to be completing a lap is going to be the McLaren driver, by the looks of things, who takes quite a bit of curb there on the inside of turn 14. Let's see, he's definitely going to finish the lap here, but definitely a little bit off the pace, so what is it going to be? It's only enough for P12, although only 2 thousandths behind the next car, so perhaps, yeah, definitely potential to jump higher up the grid for him. And meanwhile, we will then switch to the driver who is on his way next across the line. Actually, I think it's going to be Mercedes next, but we'll stick with Awad, heading into turn 14 here, and wide of the apex again, so it's not a perfect lap for the AlphaTauri driver by the looks of things, but over the line he goes, gets the DRS first, now over the line, and it's P5, so definitely room to improve there, and had he hooked up that final corner, potentially could have been challenging the top 3, maybe even the front 2, so yeah, there's definitely, it's not going to be a runaway challenge for Elias and Tamer, but it's those 2 who are still at the front of the field, and Elias now back out onto the track, and seemingly on another lap here, he's a 10th up indeed, so Elias thinks he's got room to improve. He's a very solid driver in qualifying, and look how he slides the car into turn 9. It's very much the esports line, but I think he might have just overdone it a bit there, so he's, has he backed off? It's hard to tell. I think he is still going, although it was a bit of a slow exit out of the corner if he is, so we'll stick on board, but yeah, no, he's definitely not going at full pelt here, so a bit of a mistake there for Elias. Obviously, drifting the car in that way does give you a slightly better rotation through turns 9 and 10, but yeah, drifting it the way that he just did was certainly a little bit too much, so he's either going to go back into the pits or just cool down for the rest of this lap and then start another one. So in the meantime, what is everybody else going to do? I think Nawaf is going to come back into the pits. Indeed he is, so let's switch right back to Elias then, and indeed he does come back into the pits, so yeah, he's going to be pausing again, and meanwhile his rival for pole position is going to be starting now, and starting his potentially final flying lap in qualifying. 6 minutes remaining, he might just be able to sneak another one in here, but it's going to be close, so here we go, on board with Tamer. Not the perfect apex through the first corner there, still able to carry decent speed though, and gets a good exit running up the hill through turns 2 and 3. So it's far from over for him, but on the way into turn 4 now, let's see what he can do again. A little bit conservative on the curb, of course there are marbles out wide, so that might just be the reason. Now through 5 and 6 and into 7, it's a lovely flowing section this one, especially in qualifying. And now heavy on the brakes for turn 8, careful not to lock the front right, which Tamer does not. Get the traction down nice and slowly, but slowly eventually turns into quickly as you head down into turn 9 and 10. Taking a little bit of curb there on the outside, and going to take plenty of curb on the outside of 10 here. Carrying as much speed as possible, using all of the track and then some more, heading down towards turn 11. I think it's a solid lap this one from Tamer, taking all the curb once again into 11, and perfect traction there. That is the, I suppose that's the difference between the front runners and the rest of the field. It's absolutely no hint of over-rotation, and 2 tenths up on his time, no less. It's purple through Sector 2. This time I would definitely be believing that, because this is looking like a solid lap from the Red Bull. He just goes, he gets quicker and quicker as he goes on, it seems. So into turn 14 now, spot the braking point, spot the apex, he does it perfectly, just about keep it within track limits. And now, on the run to the line, open the DRS, what will it be for Tamer? It's provisional pole position, and by 2.5 tenths as well. Very, very solid lap by the Red Bull driver there, and that is going to give Elias more than enough of a challenge for him to try and contend that, and try and usurp him and take away that P1 position. But yeah, that just shows we're going to be seeing plenty of fighting here today, and plenty of very competitive times on the board as well. Meanwhile, I believe the Mercedes of Nawaf is on his next lap here, with I was going to check how long's left in the session. There we go. Now that the yellow flag is gone, it's just under 4 minutes left, so this is potentially the last lap for the Mercedes driver, unless he's fueled up for 2 in a row. So Onboard into turn 8 is going to be under a little bit of pressure. Currently 3rd place though, so he's just trying to, well, he might be trying to challenge the front row, but it's going to need a massive improvement to do so, so I think more likely he's just going to be trying to defend his front of the 2nd row position as things stand. Perhaps a bit of a case of best of the rest here, but I won't be calling that too early. Anything can happen, of course. And into turn 11 we go now. Let's ride off-board for once. We've ridden on-board plenty enough here, so see what the lap looks like from the off-board cameras and get a sense of the real speed of things here. As Nawaf makes his way into turn 13, and once again, as per usual, the game tells us he's purple. We'll obviously have to wait and see how true that is. I think Imamina just had an issue there. I think he just disconnected from the session, so potentially with only 2 minutes left to go, he might not be able to set another lap here, so perhaps P10 at best for the McLaren, and back into the pits will go the Mercedes of Nawaf. So he's clearly not been able to improve on that one. The game was obviously lying to us about that purple time, so he's going to have just enough time here. I think just enough time to get into his garage and change tyres, then get back out again, so we'll see how that goes. It's going to be pretty close though, so we'll keep an eye on it, and that leaves us now with the only driver on track, Wedgman Ali, Elias's teammate, who's probably looking to be a bit further up the grid and a bit closer to his teammate, is about to finish another lap in qualifying here, heading down towards turn 14. Does he keep the traction nice and steady on the exit? Indeed he does. Perhaps sacrificing a little bit of speed though, so over the line he goes. What will it be? It is an improvement, but no improvement in positions. It's still P12 for Wedgman Ali, so not ideal for him. And now we have, yeah, everybody else is going to be, well, actually I think a couple of drivers might be about to start laps. No, the game is perhaps just lying to us, or maybe they're already on laps, I don't know. Yeah, seems like they are. Draco's definitely pushing, and I think Hamad Tariq was as well, so we'll ride on board for a moment with the Alfa Romeo driver, and he was a bit wide there through turn 8, so yeah, we're into the crunch time now. 1 minute and 45 seconds left in the session, so this is the time to make your best lap times and make them count. And again, Draco just not looking particularly quick there through turns 9 and 10. Let's switch over to the Mercedes of Hamad, and again, looking quite slow, not being able to carry the apex speed that he would have liked. So we're heading towards turn 11, we'll see what he can do, and yeah, he's backed off, that's why, so he's going to, I presume, just back off, save up some battery and try and go again. So let's switch back to the Alfa Romeo driver, Draco, who's going to make his way towards the final couple of corners now. It's, like I say, feels like one corner, but it is technically 2 corners. Turns 14 and 15 is going to be a little bit of traffic there, so Dirtier will not help the Alfa Romeo driver, but he's still able to make it through cleanly. And heading up to the line now, get the DRS open. What will it be for the Alfa? It is just enough to improve one position up to P8, but obviously plenty of drivers still left to set their times now, and one of those drivers is the driver who he just beat, Hussein Alberoni, who is on his own lap now, but 2.5 seconds off the pace, so he must have made a mistake as well, so perhaps he might just be able to hold that position, Draco, unless anyone behind him is able to improve. We've got Wedgman, who's going to be on his way back into the pits, 25 seconds down, so going to be P12 at best for him, unfortunately, as that was one of the Mercedes, Nawaf just on his outlap there, so I was going to say he'd have been well over track limits if he was pushing. So it's going to be, yeah, he will still have plenty of chance to set his final lap in the session. Actually now retires, and that's on the track as well. You can see on the little mini-map there, that's going to be at turn 8, I believe. See if we can switch to the Mercedes of Hamad, who's going to be right behind him, and there you go. You can see the Haas driver just pulling off the track there, so no improvement for him. He's going to be starting 6th place at best here, but we'll switch back down to the other Nawaf in the McLaren, who's going to cross the line, and it is only P13. He's not able to improve, and likewise, Boody has not been able to set a time either, so he's going to be starting from the back here today, and there's a spin for Wedgman Ali. He wasn't... well, I don't think he was on another lap, or perhaps he was actually, because he didn't go back into the pits, but he's certainly not going to be now, so he goes for a loop there out of turn 4, and he will not be improving. But meanwhile, you know who is improving? It's Elias up at the top of the field. I didn't even realise he was that far around the lap, and he has gone 27.655, exactly a tenth quicker than Tamer, and he might just be starting on pole now, unless Tamer has something to say about it. He's just about down on his lap time, though, so Tamer not improving yet, and he's going to need to find 2/10 somewhere in this final sector. No, he's backed off. Tamer is not going to be improving, so it's going to be 2nd place on the grid for him, unless anyone else can pull out 6.5 tenths of a second, but I don't think that's going to happen. Nawaf is improving though, although, well, as I say that, gets a massive drift coming out of turn 13, so improving for how much longer we'll have to see. He's going to have just a little bit of traffic through the final corner there, who's going to give him a bit of dirty air. That is the Red Bull, I believe, of I'm not sure who it was, but off the track goes Nawaf, slides, and, well, he's going to come back into the pits. They clearly lost the time he had gained, but no bother for him because he's going to hold on to third place anyway. Nobody else is going to be able to improve. Wedgman Ali is going to be the last driver across the line, and he is obviously not going to be on a lap. So there you go. That is the end of the first qualifying session here in the SkyVision Arab Tournament 2024, and it is going to be resulting with Lamauyes Elias top of the timesheets, which is, if you know this guy, that's exactly where you're used to seeing him in the Ferrari. And he is going to be leading Tamer from second place. Those guys are clearly in a bit of a world of their own there on pace-wise. 7/10 clear almost of Nawaf in third place. From Omar, who just about holds on to fourth. Awad in fifth. Then Achi in sixth. Noktalal in seventh. Draco in 8th, Hussein Al-Baruna in 9th, Imamina in 10th, Hamad Tariq in 11th, then Wedgman Ali 12th, the other Nawaf, the McLaren Nawaf, in 13th, and Budi will round off the grid, the only driver not to set a time, in P14. So, there you go. That's going to be the result for qualifying. Elias on pole, and yeah, we're going to go to a very short little break here before we get underway with what should be a very entertaining race in just a moment's time. Don't go anywhere. And that is incredibly disappointing. I apparently had my mic muted, so sincerest of apologies. I don't know how I've managed to do that. Well, there you go. We've missed the first 5 laps. Well, you've seen the first 5 laps. You've seen everything that's happened, and what you've just seen is Elias get himself into the lead of the race once again, just about fending off Tamer, who tried to make the re-overtake into turn 4. But yeah, sincerest of apologies for that. I think it was, I was expecting there to be a formation lap, but that was not the case, and so, yeah, everything had to be thrown together at the last second, just trying to make sure I didn't even miss the 5 red lights, but unfortunately, I've missed switching on my voice as well, so apologies for that. You can get used to hearing me once again now, but yeah, it is now Elias who's into the lead of the race on the hard tyres. So what I have been saying, and you obviously haven't been hearing, is that Elias is on the hard. Tamer though is on the medium, so he's got much more grip at this stage of the race. Although yeah, with every lap that goes by, that advantage is going to start to swing into the favour of his rival, who's currently up ahead of him. And what I've also been saying, and what you might be about to see, is Elias has very good straight line speed. That's something you come to expect from that Ferrari driver, but it's not going to be good enough to hold Tamer behind surely here. Oh no, it is. Look at that. He's so quick in a straight line. Tamer almost bumps into the back of him, and it's going to be, well, just about single file into the first corner. Nawaf all the while just lurking in the background to see if he can find a move. Meanwhile, further down the order, there are some moves going on, because here goes Achi for a double overtake into the first corner, side by side with Awad, and there's going to be a bit of contact between them, banging tyres. Meanwhile, up at the front of the field, there's changing places as well. Elias is just about going to hold on from Tamer, but what about behind them? Here goes Awad round the outside and just about going to stay ahead of the Haas driver, but that was a bold dive bomb from the Haas of Achi into the first corner, almost made the double overtake work, but yeah, has to settle for just an upgrade into P5 and ahead of Talal now, who you can see sliding in the background there on the medium tyres. Perhaps just the first sign that those are starting to go off, and yeah, all the while up at the front of the field, it's still, as you were, Elias able to hold his lead ahead of the Red Bull of Tamer behind him, but once again, for how much longer is the question we have to ask. And, well, I suppose that's a question that will be answered once we get back onto the start-finish straight, I would assume. And, yeah, that's a very bizarre camera angle there, cut into the curb. But, yeah, what about further down the order? Seems like Achi's got some great pace in that Haas car, and is going to be closing up straight away to the back of the AlphaTauri. Meanwhile, further down the order, I think Nawaf has just gotten past Draco into turn 10 as well, so that must have been an almighty move. Shame we had to miss that one, but yeah, well, let's try not to miss any more, shall we? Because here goes Tamer, up the inside, he goes into the first corner. This time, he's got the straight line speed. Elias mustn't have had the battery to defend it this time around, and Tamer gets himself back into the lead, but can Elias try and fight it? Look at Tamer slide in the rear end, heading up towards turn 4. Elias will have the DRS now, and he's going to have the inside line as well. If Tamer doesn't defend it, he tries to, but it was a bit late. A little bit of contact between the two of them, and they're going to be wheel to wheel, getting close together, but Elias just slides the rear end a little bit on the exit of the corner, offline, and is going to have to settle back in behind the Red Bull, where he was for the first few laps of this race. But, yeah, just the signs of a great battle that we're going to be seeing here today, and still 22 more laps of this as well. So, yeah, long may it continue. Been great to watch so far, and meanwhile behind them, I think Awad and Achi were swapping places for a second. Somebody who is still swapping places is Draco and Nawaf, and now, back up at the front of the field, Tamer was well, coming under siege from Elias. I think Elias had a look into turn 10. He's certainly going to have a look now. No, he's not, because he gets lagged out and suddenly drops back to third. There's a change of events you wouldn't have expected. So Codemasters are going to be interfering with this race by the looks of things, and all of a sudden now it's Nawaf who's going to be in the prime seat to perhaps take the lead of the race all of a sudden here. And all the while, those guys have been fighting. Nawaf and the other Nawaf, the McLaren Nawaf, and Draco have been fighting as well. And at the moment, it's the McLaren driver who stays ahead of the Alfa Romeo, who's clearly fighting the rear end a little bit there. But those guys a long way behind the field, and failing a safety car will not be fighting for points today. But here we go, two drivers who are certainly fighting for points. Elias and Nawaf now going to switch places again. And Elias might just fancy a double move here, going for it into the first corner. Nawaf's trying to have a look as well, but he backs out of it, as does Elias. He was close, but not close enough to make the move on the Red Bull driver, and settles back into second place now. But yeah, he's well, he's managed to undo Codemaster's mistake, and now he might be about to undo his own mistakes, if you will, and try and go round the outside. There's a bit of contact, though, between him and the Red Bull. Now Nawaf's going to have a look to the inside. They might even be three wide. Tamer is able to defend the Mercedes, but can he defend the Ferrari? No, he cannot. Elias goes right round the outside of him, heading through turn 6 and 7, and gets himself back up into the lead. It is a brilliant battle for the race win here today. And, well, I don't think Tamer will certainly not be able to fight it in towards turn 11. It's only Elias with his incredibly low wings who's able to make the moves there, so they will stay single file for the time being. But, yeah, some great racing we're seeing here today, and here's some more racing for you. Again, it's Nawaf and Draco fighting for 12th and 13th. It's maybe a bit of a fight for the wooden spoon, but they are going to be fighting nonetheless, and all credit to them for that. I would do the exact same thing if I was them. And at the moment, the McLaren's ahead, but Draco is so much quicker through turn 7. There must have been a mistake there. Now another little mistake for the McLaren running wide, so clearly that's the reason that these guys just keep on fighting. And into turn 10, are we going to be seeing any dive bombs? No, we're not going to be seeing that just yet. So let's switch back up to the front of the field for round number 9 of this battle it must be, because here goes Tamer once again. Up the inside into the first corner. I don't think Elias will fight this too hard. Let's see. No, tucks in behind. Well, tucks right in behind, actually gives the Red Bull a tap. Loses the back end, actually. He might have had a tap from behind from Nawaf, who's now going to try and get around the outside. Elias is going to run him out of road there. Some feisty racing between the Mercedes and the Ferrari. And now there's actually more feisty racing behind them because the Haas of Achi has spun round at turn 2. I think that was contact with Awad Harbi. Those two were side by side, heading through the first few corners, and all of a sudden, one of the quickest drivers in the race is now back down to P6, and it might be under pressure from more drivers. Here's Hamad, Tariq and Omar going side by side into turn 4. The Mercedes driver just about getting ahead, but getting switchbacked as well, and a beautiful switchback as well, heading towards turn 6. And the Alfa Romeo gets himself back ahead, but yeah, great battles all the way through the field. And here's everybody else's favourite battle, right at the back of the field, side by side once again. Draco and Nawaf, wheel to wheel through turns 2 and 3. And, well, still, nobody able to decide a favourite between the two of them. Into turn 4 we go once again, and the McLaren goes way deep there, sailing almost into the runoff. And just about has to, well, just about keeps it on the track, but has to settle in behind for P13. So, yeah, not ideal for him. And is going to be running off the track once again. I don't think that McLaren, well, I don't know if it's a setup or just, well, something else, I don't know. But clearly something not going quite right for him here today. And, well, I suppose if it keeps the battle going, then I'm all for it. But obviously they were both of those drivers like to be fighting for points-paying positions, which obviously with a safety car could still happen. Here we go once again into the first corner. Elias this time going to be settling in behind once again and not going to lose the back end going through turn 2, so he's going to be, well, I was going to say he's going to be in the fight in towards turn 4, but Tamer gets a brilliant exit, so those medium tyres, even 10 laps into the race, seem to be holding up very nicely for the Red Bull driver, and yeah. He's going to hold the position as things stand, stays ahead, and meanwhile, obviously, Awad now doesn't have a driver to fight, so he will hold on to P4, but behind them, we've got Imamina and Hamad Tariq. Hamad, again, just losing places here, so that's a second position loss in as many laps, and it's Imamina this time who gets through and up into P8, but perhaps not without challenge. Let's see, can the Mercedes do anything? No. Loses the back end, and he's going to have to settle in for P9 here. So, yeah, a very entertaining race, though, I've got to say. Great fighting all the way through the field. A little bit of contact here and there, but that's, I suppose, to be expected when you've got this many battles. And, yeah, a great race 10 laps in, and long may it continue for the remaining 19 laps of this race. And continue it will. As I say, I do have to take breaks occasionally because it's full-on action here, which is, to be fair, exactly what I was expecting. That is generally what you sign up for in league races like this, but I've got to say, like I say, it's been great quality so far. And hopefully that does continue. And at the moment, Tamer has finally seemed to have broken just a little bit of a gap, but Elias, with that straight line speed, look at him close into turn 1. This time he's going to go for it, up the inside, slide in the back end a little bit, lock of the rear axles, just manages to get it stopped in time. And again, Tamer round the outside, seemingly finding the grip on those medium tyres that he needs, but Elias is going to be close enough to fight it into turn 4 this time around. And can he make the move? Right round the outside he'll have to go. Tamer's surely going to run him out of road. There's just enough space for him to stay on the track though, and he's going to use all of that space round the outside into turn 6, now into turn 7. There's a bit of contact between them, the hand goes up, and side by side still into turn 8. Tamer's got the inside, but is that enough to defend the position? No, it's not. Elias on the traction. The hard tyres might just be the favourable ones at this point in the race, with the inside into turn 9 will surely get the move done now. Indeed he does. Brilliant racing between the two of them, and all the while Nawaf still just waiting in the background, lurking in the wings, but here goes Tamer up at the front. No, you saw that, he just backed off for a second, thought about going for the move, but decided perhaps it's best to just save the tyres for the time being. and sticking behind that Ferrari. But brilliant fighting for the race win here today, and plenty of time for that to still continue. But I'm interested to see, once these guys switch tyres, which they will, I think Tamer is going to be in the next couple of laps here, most likely, unless he's able to stretch the stint even further, which he may well try to do. We'll wait and see. As also, I should point out, whilst that battle was happening, actually retired from the session, so that was in the pit lane, I do believe, so that's why we didn't see any safety car come out, but actually going to be competing no further in this race, unfortunately. But yeah, still competing up at the front, and Tamer going for the outside line there into the first corner. That's not what I was expecting to see. Almost found himself on the grass as a result, but I suppose it will set him up a little bit better to try and get the move into turn 4. Can he do it though? Gets the DRS open, closes up to the Ferrari, full ERS deployment, and once again going to go the long way round and gets ahead before they get to the braking zone. Tamer gets himself back into the lead of the race. The battle continues, and yeah, it is a brilliant race here today as Booty now overtakes Achi. I don't know if Booty is just glitched, because the game is convinced that he's a lap down. I'm not sure if that's true or not, but either way, he's currently fighting with, well, he's fighting on the track with a Mercedes, but the game seems to believe that he's a lap down, so I'm not entirely sure what's going on with him. Maybe he's P13. If he is not P13, if that's where he actually is, then he's currently running in P8, so a pretty solid race from him, if that is the case, but yeah. If not, if he is actually a lap down, then it's unfortunately things just not going his way at the moment. But yeah, you can never be sure with Codemasters, so I don't know exactly. But yeah, still up at the front, it's Tamer and Elias who are going to be, well, presumably wheel-to-wheel once again. I'm going to have to start moderating my voice at this point, because honestly, the amount of times they've been side by side, it's just going to, I'll probably be passed out by the end of this one, but thankfully, that is, I suppose for the right reasons at least. I'd rather be passed out of excitement than passed out of boredom like in real life. So that's, yeah, one way of doing it. And Tamer, there you go. Well, fake to the pit lane. He was just trying to see if, well, I don't know what he was trying to do, honestly. Elias was never going to pit on the hard tyres. What he is going to do, though, is go for the move into the first corner and get it parked in front of the Red Bull. Just comes over and, yeah, a sign of experience there and great driving from Tamer not to lock the brakes and, you know, lose grip under the dirty air and not go careening into the back of the Ferrari like Seb Vettel did a few years ago. What he might do now is try and go into... Oh, on the inside, he's going to hit the Ferrari. Never mind, the second I spoke about no contact, there it is. Contact between them, it was the slightest little touch, but that was enough to send Elias spinning round in front of the Red Bull. They're going to be still side by side, heading through turn 6 and 7, and I think perhaps now a little bit more heated between the two of them. Elias is actually going to let Tamer back through, for, well, reasons unbeknownst to me, but all of this leaves Nawaf into the lead of the race. That's exactly what he's been waiting for, just the chance for the two rivals ahead of him to keep fighting and eventually come to blows. That's exactly what's happened, and now he might just have a chance to take a very unexpected victory here in Bahrain if he's able to hold that gap of 3 seconds. But it is a, well, I mean, it was a brilliant fight until it all boiled over there. It's a total drama between the front two drivers. As I was, well, I was thinking before the race, I might have actually said it when you couldn't hear me, but what I was going to say is the only way that anybody else is likely to win an event here is that, well, the two leaders are the ones that come to blows and fight so hard that they end up taking each other out. Meanwhile, you just saw first the pit stops coming in. So Nawaf, on the medium tyres, will come in to stop now, takes the advantage that he's got, and will try and get an undercut as well onto a set of hard tyres. So let's see what our net race leader can do here, and he's going to be joined in the pits by Talal as Hussein Al-Baroni disconnects from the session, so that's not ideal for him. Hopefully he's able to rejoin, but yeah. It's top drama up at the front of the field. Tamer and Elias come into blows, so luckily for the both of them, there was no damage. Like I say, it was a very light bit of contact that sent them round, but yeah, still, contact nonetheless, and it's cost them valuable track time. So the both of them, what they're going to have to do now is put all of their beef behind them and actually cooperate for a little bit, to make sure that the Mercedes of Nawaf, who's going to get an undercut on them now, isn't able to get a massive gap once they both come into the pits. Because if they do keep fighting, they're just going to hold each other up, and Nawaf is going to be in prime position to potentially take a very unexpected race victory. And, well, I think that's a sign that Elias is probably looking to cooperate just a little bit there, because he did not go for the move into turn 11. He knows that he can't be holding himself up now at this point in the race, so he's going to, yeah, just settle in behind and sit behind the gearbox of the Red Bull, which he's been doing for so long in this race, and, well, basically, let's see how tactically he can play it. I reckon if he can make a clean move on the start-finish straight into the first corner, he will probably do that right here and right now, so let's wait and see. But if they do start fighting through the corners, that's going to be an issue. But no, they're both into the pits, so they're going to cover off the Mercedes then. Clearly, the tyre wear is not too much of an issue, and to be fair, we are on to now lap 15 of the race. We've just started it, so let's see what the pit stop war is like between Red Bull and Ferrari. Seems like a decent one for Ferrari, but is Red Bull able to get ahead? Of course they are, so there's some realism for you. And yeah, Tamer will just about hold his position, but where is that Mercedes? Here we go, blasting down the front straight at top speed as Nawaf, and how big is the gap going to be? He's surely going to be ahead, indeed he is, but by how much? So there goes the Red Bull, there goes the Ferrari, and the Mercedes out of the picture already, so let's see what these guys can do on cold tyres, but at the moment, the gap currently 2.5 seconds. I would expect that to increase a little bit though, through the first couple of sectors of the lap here. Meanwhile, we've also had Omar El Mouta and Hamad Tariq both in the pits for a change of tyres. It will be, obviously, a one-stop race for everybody here, but looking back up to the front of the field, it's going to be 2.8 seconds, so those guys, I think Tamer and Elias both played the right call there, and now, actually, Nawaf was, I don't know if he actually did get held up, but he might have been held up or distracted at least a little bit by Awad there, who just, well, he's just ghosted. He mustn't be in the car. He might have disconnected from the session. So, yeah, that's unfortunate for him because he's going to lose so much time. You can see how slow the AI is there. So he's going to, well, get in the way a little bit of Tamer and Elias. Although, well, is he? Is he going to get in the way? I don't know. He might get in the way in a few corners' time. He's not quite close enough yet. I thought for a second he might have given Tamer DRS, but that was not the case. So let's see. The gap now, actually. No, that was the gap between Awad and Nawaf. I'm getting a little bit confused here. Forgive me. But, yeah, now he's going to hold them up through turn 13 and actually loses the back end. Be very careful not to take these guys out, because otherwise you're going to be in a lot of trouble. And, well, as I say that, he tries to slot in behind Elias, almost makes contact with the Ferrari driver, so playing a little bit of a risky game as the AlphaTauri on those clearly very worn hard tyres. Is he going to come into the pits, though? No, he's going to continue to stay out, so perhaps going to go for a set of softs at the end here. But here we go, going for P2 and getting P2 straight away goes Elias into the first corner, doesn't even need the braking zone, and using the DRS, the Ferrari is back ahead of the Red Bull and now can be the one to lead the charge to try and close up on the Mercedes of Nawaf, who is now 2.3 seconds up the road. It is certainly going to be a very interesting battle towards the end of the race, because they are going to have to not only catch, obviously catching is one thing, but they're going to have to pass that Mercedes as well, and given the opportunity that he's got here to take the win of this race, I don't think he's going to be giving it up easily whatsoever. Obviously, no more pit stops in this one. The strategy is all done and dusted now, failing a safety car, so it's a pure battle, and yeah, I'm very intrigued to see what he can do to try and hold these guys off. He's clearly got some decent pace, but obviously not quite enough, and we saw in qualifying nowhere near the pace of these guys, so they are still the favourites, Elias and Tamer. But whether they will actually be able to convert the favouritism into the win is certainly a different story, so we'll wait and see on that front, and meanwhile we can take this slight moment of calmness between these guys to look down the order and see if anybody else has got battles going on, because Imamina is getting pretty close up to the Ferrari of Wejman Ali, who I'm not sure if he's made a pit stop in this race. Let's pull up the graphics and see. Indeed, he has made a pit stop, so actually, Wejman Ali must have got an undercut or something there, because he's found himself now in the points-paying positions, and they're on merit as well, so great job by him to try and scrape a couple points out of this one. We'll see how he's able to do. But Imamina is going to be closing up to him, and meanwhile, up at the front of the field, I think we've got a move there. Oh, that's Awad is in the pits now, finally ditches the hard tyres, and it is only for mediums. So yeah, not able to make the hard to soft switch work. Just going to play it safe, get onto a set of medium tyres to the end of this one, and go full push from here, which is exactly what Elias and Tamer are doing, and you can see how much that's paying off for them, because the gap now down to it was 1.2 seconds, it's now 1.1 seconds, closing up with every corner that goes by, and we are about to see a very, very tasty fight for the lead and fight for the win here between all three of these drivers. So yeah, keep your eyes peeled on this one. These are the last moments of calm. I think once we get onto the start-finish straight, Elias will be well within striking distance of that Mercedes. He's already well within the DRS range. 0.6 of a second the gap now, so things are about to get very heated. Meanwhile, further down the order, here goes Imamina on Wedgman Ali. There's going to be a bit of contact between the two of them. It's a little bit of lag and desync there as well, so it's hard to tell exactly what was going on. But Wedgman Ali gets forced off the track into the gravel for a second. Now he's going to go very late on the brakes into turn 4 just to say, hey, what are you doing, to the McLaren, who almost pushed him off the track, but it's going to be, yeah, no good in terms of trying to make the re-overtake. And now Nawaf is just going to pull right over to the inside. I thought he was going for a pit stop for a second then. That's not what we want to see, but no, he's just breaking the toe. But here we go, here comes Elias. No, toe or not, he's got that straight line speed advantage. Into turn 1 goes the Ferrari, trying to get the lead, and indeed he does, because Tamer is trying to get up the inside into second place as well. He knows that all of the time that he can lose here is critical in this race, and he is able to get right round the outside of the Mercedes. Can he fight it into turn 4? Yes, he can. Blocks at the inside nicely, and Tamer not wasting any time. He knew that he had to get past as soon as Elias did. Couldn't lose any time to that Ferrari, and indeed does so nicely. So he's going to be back up into second place now, and yeah. No, I fought it as well as he could. There was just really not too much he could do. Elias in that Ferrari, that straight line speed is just incredible. So he's going to be hoping now that he can do exactly what he did in the first stint of this race, tuck in behind these guys and hope and pray that they fight hard enough that they come to blows once again, and hopefully for him this time a little bit closer towards the end of the race. So let's see how it goes, and meanwhile we've got another move further down the field. That's Draco using the DRS to get straight past Wedgman Ali, who is now relegated, unfortunately for him, back out of the points, but still on the hard tyres has a chance to fight it, but going off at turn 1 will not do him any favours there, losing a whole heap of time on the exit of the corner. So yeah, not ideal for him unfortunately, but he's still roughly there or thereabouts, and if he's got the pace, he will be able to challenge that position. But I think what's more likely is that Draco is going to be looking at the gearbox of yet another McLaren in this race. This time it's the other one, it's Imamina, and trying to see if he can't get himself up into P9 come the end of this one. Meanwhile, back up to the front of the field, here goes Tamer. He's going to look to the inside with 10 laps to go in the race. He's going to get the lead by the looks of things. How hard will Elias fight it is the question, and not too hard is the answer. So just going to slip in behind. This is the, well, this is how it's going to go. These two have fought each other plenty hard enough in many other leagues, so they know how each other drives, they know how this race is going to go, and they know that these positions are going to keep on changing all the way to the checkered flag. And yeah, it'll only be a case of in the last few laps, that is when we'll start to see the strategy of who wants to be ahead at what time, and that will be what ends up deciding this race, failing a safety car. But as things stand, it's still going to be Tamer ahead of Elias, and will he try his trademark turn 11 move? No, he's just going to stay in behind. So yeah, I think perhaps just learning their lessons a little bit from what happened the first time around, knowing that it's probably not the best idea to fight each other too hard, because that Mercedes of Nawaf is ever present in the background, driven a very, very solid race, I've got to say. And there's going to be, well, faith in any mistakes, securing himself at the very least a podium here, and potentially, if he, well, if he times his attacks right, potentially just something more. So let's wait and see how that goes for him. But yeah, the main focus is obviously on this battle for the lead between Elias and Tamer, which is about to switch hands once again. Here we go. We'll ride on board with the Ferrari, and it will be once again with that straight line speed, a breeze to the inside, ahead before the braking zone, and Tamer just has to settle in behind. He knows the rhythm, he knows how this will go, and this, like I say, will continue to switch places, presumably every lap, for the next couple of laps until, I would probably guess, around about lap 24 or lap 25 is when these guys might start to, well, might start to consider their strategy of what lap do you want to be ahead, and how do you want to defend from the car behind if you are ahead. So it's going to be, yeah, that's going to be the very interesting thing to see towards the end here. As things stand, let's do some quick mental math. It's going to be Tamer ahead, oh, yeah, Tamer ahead next lap on lap 21, then Elias ahead onto lap 22, then Tamer onto 23, Tamer onto 25, Tamer onto 27, and Tamer onto 29. So, as things stand, Tamer has the rotation, as it were, in his favour, but obviously that can be thrown off at any minute by things such as a lapped car perhaps getting in the way just a bit, and, well, if the lapped car of Booty is able to give Elias DRS down the start-finish straight, then he might just be able to stay ahead for an extra lap, but no, he's just going to get right out of the way there. or the game's going to get him out of the way, whatever happens, and yeah. So no hindrance for those guys, they're going to be straight through. And yeah, let's see how this one goes. Meanwhile, we've got a yellow flag down at the first corner. That's for Wedgeman Ali, who's had a spin all on his own by the looks of things. And yeah, able to get the car recovered. Clearly not done any damage to it, so he's going to continue on. But unfortunately, his chances of points are almost gone. Meanwhile, his teammate is going to be fighting for top points in the race once again. Here goes Tamer up the inside. Let's ride on board with the Mercedes this time for a little bit of a change of scenery, because we've seen it so many times already. And Tamer is trying to get the switch back here. He wasn't able to get the position into the first corner, so can he do it into the fourth one? Side by side, here we go, and this is where it went wrong last time. Elias this time on the outside, he's a bit further behind, and he's going to be trying to fight it. You can see him using a bit of battery there. Side by side once again through the S's into 6 and 7. And it's still wheel to wheel, but finally Elias has to back out, not going to make any rush dive bombs, and Tamer does get himself back into the lead of the race. So the pattern of overtaking each lap does continue, and like we say, if it were to stay as it is, with one change of lead every lap, then it would currently leave Tamer in the lead on the final lap of the race. But obviously, Elias is going to, well, him and his engineer, Aero, will work that out and decide that no, they don't actually want that to happen, and they will obviously do everything they can to stop that from being the case. So this one, far from over just yet. And obviously, if there is any further contact between the two of them, Nawaf, like we say, just waiting in the wings to see what he can do behind them. And behind them, it's a 20-second gap now to the Red Bull of Talal, who's, yeah, we're struggling a little bit earlier on in the first stint, but seems to be going much better on the hard tyres, and just driving a calm and clean race ahead of Omar in P5. Then it's Awad Harbi, who's currently in P6 and seems to be perhaps maybe closing up in the Alfa Romeo, so might just have a battle for P5 as well towards the end of this race. But obviously the prime battle is up at the front of the field. Elias, with the straight line speed once again, does the routine, gets himself back up into first place, and I wouldn't expect Tamer to be fighting this one. So obviously, like we say, the rotation is in his favour, so it's more so up to Elias as things stand to do something a bit different, although as I say that, Tamer has a little look to the inside into turn 4, but he's going to stay in behind for now. Is he? Having a look towards turn 6, but no, he's just going to, yeah, stay there, stays in behind, hold in position, and actually those guys have started to make just a little bit of a gap to Nawaf here, so perhaps the Mercedes dropping out of the battle just a little bit, we'll see. Obviously, the most important thing for him, try and stay within DRS at all costs of the guys ahead of him. If he can do that, he'll stay in the fight. But if he can't, then yeah, we might just see him start to drop away from this battle, which might just make it, you know, a true two-horse race. So we'll see how it goes, and we'll be coming up on a little bit more lap traffic in a second. That's the other Nawaf in the McLaren is going to be perhaps getting in the way of things just a little bit, and we'll see if that complicates the fight any more than it already is. And here we go, onto the back of that lap traffic, just about gets out of the way there. I'm not sure that he would have held up Elias too much, I think seemed to be about even, but here we go. Oh no, what he did do though is give Elias DRS, so there you go. The change of balance might have just been right there. The lapped car might be affecting this race, because if Tamer can't get past into turn 4, then all of a sudden the action is now in his hands. He will have to change things. Let's see what he can do. He's going to use plenty of battery, and he's going to get himself right up to the inside here. I don't think, well, it doesn't look like Elias is fighting it at all, so perhaps they have different strategies here. Perhaps he's trying to save some tyres, and he is going to get himself through. Back into the lead of the race is the Red Bull, and all the while, Nawaf now is dropping out of DRS for the first time in this race. So unless he can have a good middle sector, which he may still be able to do, he's just teetering on the edge at the moment. But we might be soon seeing that Mercedes dropping out of this fight as well. So yeah, plenty to keep an eye on, and I was indeed right about the battle for P5. Slowly but surely heating up. Awad now into DRS of Omar ahead of him, and these two are going to be presumably fighting hammer and tongues come the end of this race, because obviously Awad on the medium tyres, whereas Omar on the hards, so he's going to have the pace advantage. And let's see if the AlphaTauri is able to get himself up one further place, potentially even two further places if he can catch Talal further up the road. So yeah, plenty of action still to come in this one. And yeah, speaking of the tyres as well, we should mention Elias is obviously the one now with the tyre advantage on the mediums versus Tamer on the hards. So it's going to be pretty interesting to see if that plays a role, but I think by this point, it's already starting to even out, and I think the grip come the end might actually be in Tama's favour, if anything, if he's kept the tyres in order. But meanwhile, here we go once again. Elias gets up the inside, gets into the lead, and the order continues onto lap 24 of the race now. So we're into the final 5 laps of the race, so this is around about the time when these drivers might be starting to deploy some different strategies, and Tama having a look to the inside, just seeing if he can spook his rival into a mistake. Obviously, very tricky to do that with Elias, but it has happened. It's been known to happen before, and meanwhile, behind them, we've got Awad Harbi making his move and getting past Omar, heading towards the first corner, doesn't even need the braking zone. Clearly, those medium tyres are much quicker, and now, the gap ahead of him, 2.5 seconds to Talal in that Red Bull. The AlphaTauri driver sees 4th place in his sights, and he is not done on his charge just yet. So we'll revisit that a little bit later in the race once he's able to, if he's able to close up to the Red Bull. But obviously, like we say, the medium tyres will be starting to ever so slightly go off at this point in the race. So, or at least their advantage will be starting to go off. So it's going to be very interesting to see here. And yeah, we're just sort of waiting to see how things pan out. Meanwhile, I think that's... oh no, that was just, yeah, I saw Awad making his way past a lapped car. I thought there was an Aston Martin involved in the battle all of a sudden, but no, that is just Booty, who's, yeah, down in P13, unfortunately. Things just not gone his way today. And, not been the perfect day for Aston Martin as a whole, although Hussein is, yeah, looking pretty comfortable in P8 as things stand, so failing any mistakes, they will still be able to score some points. But the big points, here, up at the top of the field, onto lap 25 of 29, what will Tama do? He's going to look to the outside once again, getting very close to contact. Would have been an almighty accident there had they made contact, but just about keeping it clean, a mark of the experience, but a mark perhaps of a little bit of tyre wear for that Red Bull as he slides his way through turns 2 and 3. He's going to have all of the battery deployed as he heads towards turn 4, but can't find a way through. He's going to stay in P4, in P2, sorry, as things stand, and there we go. So that's a change already. Tama has not been able to get past on this lap. This was the lap he should have been ahead, so perhaps now it's going to be the balance is in favour of Elias on the final lap of the race. So Tama is, yeah, going to have a little bit of work to do, but obviously that balance was only, of course, if they were to change places every lap. That does not obviously decide the actual ending of the race. So what Tama can do now, sit in behind, use the slipstream to gain a little bit of extra ERS on the Red Bull. Let's actually take a look. Seems like, yeah, it's Elias has got a bit more battery at the moment. Both of them fairly solid around the halfway mark. So we'll see what happens between the two of them on the battery front as well, because that is very important in terms of making moves, and especially for Tama. See, the thing about the thing about the lower wings for Elias is it means he doesn't have to use as much ERS when he wants to make a move, so he might just be able to play the battery game here as well and just use that to his advantage to try and secure the win of this race here at the first round of the Arab tournament this season. But what about behind them? Oh, into the pits behind them. Nawaf is coming into the pits. He's, well, actually, I can tell you exactly what he's doing. He's seen the 22-second gap. He is going to try and go for fastest lap in this race. He's got the pit stop gap, so he's abandoned all hope of trying to get the win of this one. So it's a straight fight now between Elias and Tama. But yeah, it is Nawaf is going to go for the fastest lap, and I've got to say, very smart call from the Mercedes driver as well. So nice job by him. He's going to shore up, if he can get the fastest lap, a very solid drive here today. And yeah, lap 26 of 29. Oh, actually, he's going to find a bit of trouble doing so, though, because he's going to come out just behind Talal. I was going to say, going to be quite close between them, obviously. Shouldn't be really any contest for him to make the move on the soft tyres once they get up to temperature, and perhaps might even go for the move now. He's going to have a look in towards turn 4. Might he try and just roll the car around the outside on the marbles, so he's not going to be able to do that. So, yeah, going to get held up a bit here, but he'll definitely make that pass at some point soon. And, yeah, once he does, going to get the fastest lap and try and secure himself P3 and a very solid drive as well. But obviously, credit to Red Bull. They're the highest placing constructor at the moment. Got cars in second and third, and now, here we go, on the exit of turn 8 into turn 9, there goes Nawaf, making the move, and very nicely done by him as well. So, yeah, gets himself up into third place, failing any mistakes now, that is where he will finish, and yeah, see if he can get the fastest lap too. But, here we go. Heading on to the final 3 laps of this race, it's Tama behind Elias, but is that where he wants to be? Is this where Elias wants to be, or are they going to change places? Tama not using battery this time around, he's just going to cruise up to the inside, but he won't make the move just yet. But here we go, heading towards turn 4 again. Look at the steering wheel, he's not deploying battery as the Red Bull driver, so he's just going to sit in behind at the moment, close right up to the Ferrari, make sure that Elias is obviously well aware that the Red Bull is right there behind him to capitalise on any mistakes. But he's just going to have to sit behind for now. And meanwhile, further behind, we've got Omar now trying to re-overtake Awad Harbi, who's clearly struggling a bit on those medium tyres. They might be starting to fall off, and perhaps a warning sign there for our race leader, but he's going to try and fight it, heading towards turn 4, but no, not got the straight line speed, and Omar finds himself up into P5 now. So, good driving by him, seemed like a nice clean overtake, and gets himself into the top 5 of the race once again. And I think that probably means that Talal is going to be, well, I was going to say he's safe, but no, the gap is gone between those guys, so he's not safe by any means, because now he's going to be under pressure from both Omar and Awad, so it's going to be a very entertaining end to this race. We've got a fight for the win, and also a three-way fight for 4th, 5th, and 6th, and then the driver in 3rd place trying to steal the fastest lap, so plenty of action going on here as we head out of the final couple of corners now, and onto the penultimate lap of this race. It's Elias who still leads from Tamer behind him, he's still solid on battery, and Tamer is just going to sit in behind. That's what he's got to do now. He's going to have to put all of his eggs into one basket and try and make this move on the final lap of the race. Because if he made the pass now, then this time next lap, Elias would make the same pass on him and get himself back into the lead. So it's going to be coming right down to the wire here. I don't think Tamer's going to go for it if he's, well, if he knows what he's doing, if he's going to stick to his plan, which indeed he is, not going to go for it into turn 4, so it's going to be a case of a last lap fight for the win of this race. But meanwhile, the fighting is already kicking off behind for P4. Here goes Talal. He's going to have to try and defend from 2 cars on the inside. A little bit of contact between him and the Alpha Tauri. Now there's more contact between him and Omar, and now Omar's going to hit the side of the Alpha Tauri. It's all kicked off at the first corner, getting spun out, well, half spun out. He's able to keep it facing in the right direction, but Omar not going to be able to get P5. He's going to have to settle for 6th place now. That's going to be a big shame for him. That was a bit controversial there, because it was Talal who went way deep on the brakes into the first corner, pushed the Alfa Romeo wide, and then the scooping contact of the Alpha Tauri is what sent him round. So high drama here, and it's far from over just yet, because Awad now finds himself in prime position to try and mount an attack and try and get himself P4. The Alfa Romeo is not going to be able to stop him now, so it's his fight and his fight alone. He's got the DRS coming out of turn 10. Gonna have a look at the inside, but no, he's gonna play the same game as Tamer. He's gonna sit in behind and wait for the final lap of the race, which begins now. Here we go. Tamer in the DRS of his rival Elias, heading towards the first corner. Is he gonna send it up the inside? He's just gonna try and drift it in there. There's a bit of contact between them. They're gonna be coming up on a lap traffic car of the other Ferrari. There's more contact and more contact. Off the track for a moment goes Elias, but they're still side by side. Tamer's gonna try and fight it, heading towards turn 4 though. He's behind at the moment, but Elias backs off for a second. Now he's going to be ahead, round the outside, heading through the corner, and Tamer gets the lead of the race. Incredible stuff here on the final lap, and he is going to be ahead now, and there's been contact on the start-finish tree, because Awad has been spun out trying to go for the move on Talal to get P4, so there's drama everywhere on the track here. Omar's retired from the session out of the final corner. I think that might have been a mistake from him. I have no idea, honestly. It's a very bizarre time to retire if it wasn't, but yeah, he is out of the race now, and it's up to Elias to try and challenge into turn 11. He's going to make his signature move. Tamer tries to defend it. Elias is going to have to make the switchback though, heading through the final corners of the race. He's on the outside, on the medium tyres that are fading in grip here, but can he use what's left to dive it up the inside? There's more contact, and Elias takes Tamer out of the race at the penultimate corner. Unbelievable scenes here, and Elias is going to sail home to take victory at his home race in Bahrain for the first round of the season here in the SkyVision Arab Tournament. It will be Elias in the most controversial fashion who wins this race ahead of Tamer, who's going to have to settle for a very disappointing P2 for him, and it will be a long old wait before Nawaf is able to cross the line to collect his 3rd place, a very well earned 3rd place as well for him, I must say. But it's peak drama on the final lap of the race. Elias and Tamer come to blows for the second time. It's roles reversed from what happened earlier on in the race. This time it was Elias trying to make the desperate move up the inside, making contact, and taking the Red Bull spinning out at turn 13. What a way to end the race. That's not what you like to see, but it's peak drama there. And it will be Awad who in the end of it takes 4th because, well, I mean, I think Talal ran out of fuel. Look at him, he's going so slowly there, so I think Awad, after being spun out on the start-finish straight this time last lap, by 0.3 of a second, has taken P4. Incredible stuff. The driver has not stopped just yet. Here goes Ahmad. That's not going to be he passed for position. That's obviously just the lap car of Booty, but yeah, Ahmad's going to come home to take a solid P6 today for Mercedes, who get themselves a great haul of points on the board in this first round, and he crosses the line now. And yeah, what a race it's been. Hassim will come home in 7th place for Aston Martin, Imamina takes 8th, and the Alfa Romeo comes home P9. What an end to the race that was, and what a controversial one as well. And there it is, top step of the podium goes to the Bahraini driver. It's actually a Bahraini 1-3, sorry, I might cut out there for a second, but yeah, it's going to be Elias on the top step of the podium from Tamer, 2nd place. High drama here, the two rivals come into blows, and I've got to say, Nawaf now might be very disappointed that he wasn't there to take that P2 position, because obviously, had he not come into the pits, he would have gotten that 2nd place. So, did he get the fastest lap? No, he didn't. So yeah, the gamble has gone slightly wrong there for the Mercedes driver, but still, I think he can be pretty pleased with that one. Able to get a podium on his first race here, and does a very clean drive as well. So it will be him in 3rd place. Then Awad Harbi takes P4. Like I say, I have to assume that Talal must have run out of fuel on the final lap. I've seen it happen before here in Bahrain, and that seems to me like the only way, unless he was actually just handing back the position out of good sportsmanship. But yeah, either way, it's Awad who will take the win. Sorry, not take the win. Awad who will take P4 from Talal in 5th place, then Hamad Tariq in 6th, Hussein Al-Baruni 7th, Imamina 8th, Draco 9th, and Wedgman Ali actually rounds off the points in P10 following all of the drama at the end of the race after Omar crashed on the penultimate lap. So, what an end to the race that was, and yeah, what a great race as well, I've got to say. It was an absolute joy to watch and commentate, even if I did mess up the first 5 laps. That was my sincerest apologies for that one, but yeah, that is going to be the end of our event for today, and a great event as well. Still, 2 more races to come, of course. We have one next Friday, that's going to be at Qatar, and sorry, that's this Friday, I should say. Race this Friday at Qatar, then a final race at Jeddah. What a place to have your final race. That's going to be seriously entertaining the Friday after, so we'll be, yeah, you've got to make sure to tune in for that one. I'm not sure if I'll be there for the remaining races of the season, that remains to be decided, but whoever is there, it will be, yeah, they'll be guiding you through the epic action that we have just seen today. So, yeah. Big thank you to everyone for tuning in. You can stick with us and come back next week to see if there are any alterations to the results after the race, because obviously that ending was very controversial. Tamer and Elias come into blows, so we'll see if any penalties are applied. That will be announced next week. Sorry, next. I'm used to it being next week. It's not next week. That will be announced on Friday, and then, yeah, we'll see where it goes from there. But this seems like, by everything we've seen today, by all accounts, a very entertaining battle that's going to be ahead of us for the duration of the next 2 races. And it's going to be, well, if that's what we saw in the first race, then you can just imagine what we're going to be seeing in Jeddah for the final race of the season between Elias and Tamer. So, yeah, definitely stick around. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. And we will be back in a few days' time, 3 days' time to be precise, same time once again, for round 2 at Qatar. We'll see you then.